Alright, weekly boss tier 6 and 7, Deichgraf mechanics breakdown. Essentially, both of these tiers are pretty much the same stage. The only thing that's different are the frontline scenarios and the stats of the boss, of course, since tier 7 is higher than tier 6. But aside from those, nothing else is different. So yeah, in this video, I'll be explaining how to clear both tiers. Although I did make a video about my tier 6 clear as well, but my team lineup there was very questionable, and I also failed to cover one of the most important boss mechanic. As a way to make up for that mistake, I'll explain all of the mechanics properly this time, so let's get right to it. First things first, starting from tier 6 Deichgraf, we are going to need 2 sets of team, so that's 8 dolls in total. Not just any doll works either. They must be decently built characters, and by that I mean they should be leveled up, have good gears, have good weapon attachments and whatnot. Furthermore, among those dolls, you must have at least 2 support/healer types, 1 bulwark or tank, 2 strong DPS, 1 doll that has the movement down debuff, and 2 dolls with high mobility that also have AoE skills if possible. So yeah, in theory, you need to have specific type of characters in order to have a smooth clear for this stage. Although technically, you can still brute force some part of it, which I can personally vouch for, since I kind of brute forced my tier 6 and tier 7 phase 2 clears, all thanks to Suomi. What can I say? Suomi is just too OP. Anyways, phase 1 is just your regular old Deichgraf from tiers 1 to 5, and you must be already familiar with it if you manage to reach tier 6. So here's my team recommendation for it, especially if you're free to play. Tank is going to be either Sabrina or Groza. Healer can be either Xania, Cheetah, or Suomi if you have her. As for DPS, it should be one of your secondary DPS characters. And if you haven't invested much on said DPS character, then bring another one, but make sure that they have at least above average mobility. Basically, your Team 1 roster should be something like 1 tank, 1 support or healer, 1 DPS, and 1 doll with great mobility. The purpose of the lineup is to have the tanker and the doll with high mobility to body block the armor crates, so that phase 1 Deichgraf won't get its buffs. You know, the usual. Apart from that, it's pretty much a DPS check, so deal as much damage as you can within 8 turns. Moving on to phase 2. Now, this is where the drafting gets a little bit specific, and that's because there are certain mechanics inside the stage where having this and that character will make your run very smooth. You'll understand when we get to explaining these said mechanics, but for now, here is what I highly recommend for the Team 2 roster. First, there's Kolfni as our healer, Lotta for her massive AoE skills, 1 strong DPS of your choice, and lastly, a doll that meets 3 of the character criteria that we need. We have Vepli. Vepli is a really nice character to have for this phase. Again, especially if you're free to play and doesn't have Suomi, because not only does Vepli have very high mobility, she can also inflict the movement down debuff, which can prevent a deadly attack from Deichgraf. Let's talk about the phase 2 boss mechanics this time. First, we have Deichgraf's skill called Blazing Directive. What this does is it scans the whole map and summons a teleport point somewhere in the back. After taking said teleport, the doll will get sent to this separate field on the right called Frontline, and you will be given a mission or ultimatum to clear. Once the objective is accomplished, head over to the evacuation point to exit the front line. This must be done within 3 turns, or else Deichgraf will deal massive fixed damage to all of your dolls. Now, for each tiers, there will be 3 different kinds of scenarios that may randomly appear on the front line. On tier 6, these are the possible scenarios with their objectives. Scenario 1 is where 9 Goliaths will be summoned on the front line, and the mission is to eliminate at least 3 of them before heading over to the evacuation zone. This is where Lota really shines, since you can clear 8 Goliaths with a single ultimate skill. Scenario 2, on the other hand, summons only 4 Goliaths, but the objective is to attack an enemy without triggering cover damage reduction. Simply put, you have to shoot a Goliath with a yellow line of fire, or you can just shoot them point blank. Any doll works for this one, although preferably you send a doll with high mobility as to not waste any turns. After that, head over to the evacuation zone to exit the front line. Last and third possible scenario for Tier 6, we have 2 bulwarks being summoned on the front line, and the objective is to break the stability of at least one of these soldiers. After that, we do the usual and exit the front line. Now for this one, you can also send Lota, use her ultimate skill twice, and you'll break the stability of both soldiers. The problem is that when this bulwark's stability isn't broken, they will taunt your doll, and she won't be able to move. This is where Kolfni comes in. When taunted, just use Kolfni's ultimate skill on the taunted doll to cleanse the debuff. That is all possible frontline scenarios for Tier 6 Deichgraf. Now let's move on to Tier 7 scenarios. Scenario 1 for Tier 7 is where 1 Goliath and 1 Aegis Blade gets summoned on the front line. The objective is to reach the evacuation zone before these 2. Likewise, you can also send Lota for this one, cast her ultimate skill, killing the Goliath and freezing the Aegis Blade in the process. After that, it will take 2 turns to reach the evacuation zone. Next, Scenario 2 summons 5 Wolf Spiders on the front line. Objective is to eliminate 3 or more enemies before reaching the evacuation zone. It's not really necessary to send Lota to the front line whenever these types of scenario pops out, because you can also cast her ultimate skill from the other side of the fence and it will still count, but honestly just send her in, because she'll be the one mostly free to do so anyways. Last and third possible scenario for Tier 7, we have 1 Goliath and 1 allied unit that will be summoned on the front line. The objective is to fully heal this robot and to reach the evacuation point after that. Now you could send Kolfni for this one and use her second skill on the Goliath, but in case she won't have enough damage, then just send in Lota again to deal with the Goliath and have Kolfni heal the robot from the other side of the fence. Alright, that's all possible frontline scenarios for Tier 7. Next, let's take a look at Deichgraf's skill sets. If you click on this small tab at the top, you will be able to see the movesets of your enemies for the next turn. As we can see here, on turn 1, Deichgraf will move, although it's not stated anywhere on the description, but it will move 3 tiles. After moving, Deichgraf will use the skill Cross Prison 2. This is a 3x7 cross-shaped AoE attack, which deals a huge amount of damage. If casted successfully, it will also apply defense and damage reduction buff to itself for 2 turns. But there's actually a way to prevent this. In order to prevent Deichgraf from using its Cross Prison 2 skill, you must inflict movement down debuffs using dolls like Vepli, Groza, or even Suomi. Groza's ultimate skill applies movement down 2, which takes away 2 movement. Likewise, Vepli's passive applies the same debuff when she moves 5 or more tiles then attacks an enemy. The frost tiles from Suomi's ultimate skill also takes away 1 movement from the enemies it hits. With Vepli or Groza's movement down 2, enemies' movement is decreased by 2, and with Deichgraf's initial movement being 3 tiles, if your dolls are still within the 3x7 range when it moves by 1 tile, then it will still cast the Cross Prison 2 skill. As you can see here, Deichgraf moved 1 tile and casted Cross Prison 2, hitting my Chongju. However, if you position your dolls in a way that nobody is within the 3x7 range, Even if the boss moves by one tile, then Deichgraf won't even bother moving at all, and it will skip using the Cross Prison 2 skill. The same thing applies if you stack movement down debuffs on Deichgraf. Let's say you cast Suomi's ultimate and made use of Vepli's passive, then that's -3 movement, so Deichgraf won't be able to move, and it will skip using Cross Prison 2 as long as nobody is within the 3x7 AoE range. One more thing to mention is the armor crates that Deichgraf spawns. This time, the boss literally drops the crate above one of your dolls and deals AoE damage to all units within a 3x3 area, so try not to stick your dolls next to each other. Aside from that, when two crates are already on the field, Deichgraf will collect them on the next turn and yet again deal AoE damage within a 3x3 area. Do take note that for each of your dolls that gets hit, Deichgraf gains 1 stack of power boost, so instead of body blocking the crates like what we do on phase 1, you stay the hell away from them over here on phase 2. Last and not least, your phase 1 clear progress is already saved, so you can actually exit or restart the stage whenever you feel like it. If you ever exit phase 2, you can continue the challenge starting from phase 2. You still can change your dolls though, so make sure that your draft for each stage is optimal before even attempting phase 1. All in all, clearing this content is just a matter of making the most out of certain dolls and learning the stage mechanics. Positioning, checking the boss' next movesets, and planning accordingly is also very important. From here, I'll be showing you a very clean attempt on phase 2 Deichgraf, so you can use it as reference on how to handle the stage. Although this footage is from my tier 8 phase 1 clear, because on tier 8, the phase 2 from tier 6 to 7 is now phase 1, and the usual phase 1 becomes phase 2 with some newly added mechanics. Cheers and good luck!
了解。
パンパン。
用意。それがしか守る。
使用装置準備完了。
了解。
了解。今度は今だ。準備万端。
従ってくれ。今だ。
こっちを見なさい。こっちを見なさい。
今だ。
バーカ。痛くない痛くない。おやおや。それ。のれそれ。
了解。了解。
おやおや。痛くない痛くない。
今だ。
了解。今度は今だ。準備万端。パンパン。へっへ。それ。ショータイム。使用装置準備。
了解。
今だ。使用装置準備。
用意。用意。
了解。了解。
了解。了解。 了解
今だ。
今だ用意それがしか守る戦場は片付いた皆の者よくやったな